Hi guys, and welcome to the video. Welcome to RAF Lossiemouth in the northeast of Scotland, and welcome to this beauty here. And I stress the word beauty because I think this is a beautiful add-on. Now this is the AzurPoly Sepecat Jaguar for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which was released a few days ago, and I believe it's due to be released for 2024 in due course. Now the first thing I'm going to say is a huge thank you to AzurPoly for providing me with a copy to review. That's hugely appreciated. Now I've not encountered any of their products before. This is the first time I've seen their products, or personally seen them. Obviously they're on the store and on the internet, etc. And I was aware of the company, but I've not really had a look at their products, so this will be interesting. And I have to say it is very interesting. It's a very nice thing that they've created here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight, see what we think in the time-honoured tradition. But what I'm also going to do is just bring over a few things that I'm going to highlight. So this aircraft, by the way, it holds a lot of significance for me, just by virtue of my age. So growing up in the Cold War years, my father was in the RAF, saw loads of these things flying around, and this is predominantly modelled on a French version. So the exterior is has got some UK features, so the chisel nose, for example, the radar warning receivers, etc. There's subtle differences on the externals between the French model and the British model, but the cockpit that I can see is modelled on a French aircraft, and you can also see that with the pilots. Their headwear, their helmets and their clothing, etc. Appears to me to be French. Yeah, in terms of the aircraft itself, fascinating. It was originally developed between France and the United Kingdom with the idea of it being a two-seat trainer for advanced tactical weapons training, which it never really got into that role. It ended up going into production as an actual fighter bomber, ground attack aircraft, predominantly with that role. Predominantly sold to the UK and France. There were other versions that went abroad. I don't know how many and to what countries, but as I say, the two primary users were the United Kingdom and France. And a very fine aircraft it is too. Now there are a few byproducts of the fact that it was a trainer originally, one of which is the fact that it's not a particularly powerful aircraft in terms of its engine output. So let me just bring this over and I will demonstrate what I mean. I saw some of these at, or one of the, obviously saw loads in air shows, because every RF station back in the day used to have its own air show. So I saw quite a few of these when they were flying around in air shows. But I was based at Boscombe Down for 6 months, and they had a test and evaluation one there that I think they used to use for the test pilots school. So I saw one of those flying in and out. It's absolutely beautiful in its red, white and blue colours. But I digress. So yeah, the Sepecat Jaguar. I don't know if it's Sepecat. Don't know how to pronounce that, but never mind. As I say, conglomeration between the UK and France, predominantly operated as a single-seat fighter. The propulsion, 2 Turbomeca Adur fans. Now it started out as the 102. The RAF, when they did updates later on, went to the 104, which was ever so slightly more powerful. But these are not rocket ship engines. So per engine they produce 5,100 pounds of thrust when in dry, and then reheat 7,300 pounds of thrust. So dry, you're looking at just over a touch over 10,000. And just a touch over 14,500 with reheat. To put it into perspective, an F-16A model, their dry thrust was nearly 50% more, so 14,700 instead of the 10,000, and then their thrust with afterburner went from it was nearly 10,000 foot-pounds of force more. That's a brutal engine, and that was the early A model engine. So you can see that, you know, in terms of power to weight, this thing's not doing particularly great. In fact, have they got the empty weight here? 15.4. What's the empty weight of one of these? Max, ooh, don't know. We've got weight. Weights. Maximum payload, maximum takeoff weight was 38.5. What's this one? Empty weight, max takeoff weight 38. So this was a lighter aircraft, but only by about £4,000 at all up maximum weight. But the engines were much weaker. So I do remember an aircraft at Boscombe coming back in as a Jaguar after a single engine failure, and it was occasionally blipping its afterburners to keep its speed up. So yeah, it would have been a fantastic aircraft to fly, I think, but certainly quite underpowered for what it did. And also seen as quite a high workload aircraft from what I understand, and when you see the cockpit you'll understand why. But yeah, it's fascinating aircraft. The history and the nature of it makes it quite a unique beast. But there we go. Right, Sepecat Jaguar, AzurPoly, this is their product page. Let's just maximise that a little bit. And you can see there's lots of lovely pictures. There always are on these things. There's lots of information. Now, this list, it just comes up as a list, but it's... the aircraft's a little bit more than just reading a list, if I'm honest. There's a couple of areas where I'm a bit but yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. Faithful electrical circuits with functional breakers, TACAN GPS VOR ILS, interior exterior lighting, interactive checklist. The checklist in this is quite good. I can imagine that the checklist, the real life checklist when you were going through your operational conversion unit, would have been absolutely battering your brain. You can jettison the canopy. You can't use, or it's not active at the moment, is the drag chute, which is a shame. EFB, the usual thing. Canopy can be jettisoned. Custom effects, engine heat blur, etc. Wingtip vortices, nice. 2 helmet variations. These are the French helmets. So the British helmets were significantly different to the French. Custom and natural pilot animations, blah blah blah. Yeah, there's loads here, but it's kind of nicely summarised. Faithful electronic circuits, yeah, great, happy days. Some nice pictures showing all the lighting, etc. And their resources, if I come over here, available on the website, are their manual and the paint kit. And the manual, I just have to reload the manual because it keeps dropping out. The manual, I always like to have a look at the manual and the documentation. Now, the only thing that this is missing, if I'm honest, brutally honest, and this is, we're getting to the point where I'm already starting to be nitpicky here, but I quite like to see a written tutorial so that you can kind of follow it through in steps. The reason being is that you can then print it off and have it next to you. So if you've only got a single monitor where you can't easily see like a YouTube video on the other monitor and whatnot, it just helps because you can just go step by step through it. But you can print off the checklist, which help. Now, as you can see, very well presented, really nice pictures, lots of information in terms of all the switches to click and play around with. A lot of it is interactive. There's obviously certain areas where it's not. So, for example, I think Mode 1, Mode 2 on the IFF, those are military modes. Mode 4, I think, is military as well. I'm not entirely sure, but Mode 3 and 3 Alpha and 3 Charlie are the civilian the equivalent to the civilian transponders. So some of it is, if you like, clickable but not doing anything. Some of it's clickable and is doing something, and there are elements that are not clickable. So it's pretty much everything you're going to need is clickable in one shape, form or another. But there's a lot of information in here, an awful lot of information, and it's all appropriate. I mean, this is the fuel. The fuel system is a bit of a mystery to me at the moment. I feel for the pilots who had to operate this, because the fuel is just like, oh wow. But yeah, so here's your fuel panel, for example. In terms of if it's yellow, it's got no fuel. if it's got hatched markings, it's got some fuel, and if it's blank, it's full, as I understand it. Please feel free to correct me in the documents, but yeah, just really nice. Ground power, etc., some external features, lots and lots of good stuff here, lots and lots. CWP, the carrot salad, hydraulics, etc., and it's great, it's fascinating. We'll have a talk through some of the externals when we have a look at the outside as well, but you can see the EFB's got quite a bit on it. I do have a bugbear with the EFB. We'll highlight that as we get there. Some information about reference speed, so stall speed flaps down 100 knots, stall speed flaps up 30, rotation, initial climb, so rotate 170, initial climb at 300. You have to get the gear up pretty quick to start getting towards 300, I'll be honest. Approach speed 150, oh that's good, that's what we've been doing it at. Max speed with flaps 220. So you're going to have to get your flaps up fairly early after you get the wheels off the ground, and your gear up as well. But yeah, it's all good stuff, all really good stuff. Performance charts if you want to dig into that stuff. But it shows really where they've got their data and their information from, and as I understand it, they've also had input from real-world Jaguar pilots as well, just to enhance the product. You know, I remember back in the days, early days of Microsoft Flight Simulator, even FS9, FSX, we didn't have the subject matter experts in quite a lot of them, so they just used to base their aircraft off the performance figures, but you didn't get any impact in terms of handling, or you know, it was quite rough in the old days in terms of an approximation of the aircraft behaviour and handling and performance. But now, with subject matter experts getting involved, the accuracy is much higher. But again, that's a separate matter for a different day. So there we go. We've had a look at the manuals. We've had a look at the information, the documentation that's supplied. We've had a quick look at the aircraft in terms of things like the engines, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the outside, inside, take it for a flight now. Okay, so let's start having a look at the outside, and you can see we've got all the static elements in place at the minute, which, I have to be honest, look really good. Let me just get into, are we in drone? Yeah, we're in drone. Lovely, nice and slow as well. Okay, so the 3D modelling, particularly the static elements as well, really nicely done. As you can see, nice ladder, intake blanks, flags, etc., all on it. The overall 3D modelling of the aircraft is just fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I've seen them close to. I'd love them as an aircraft. They're not particularly big, but they are very, very nice to see. And as you can see, the 3D modelling, gun ports here, so it's got guns left and right. I think the French had a different gun to the Brits. We had the Mauser, the German-derived Mauser. I think the French had a different gun. But as you can see, I always found them slightly odd because they've got a very flat belly. Very, very flat belly. Very sturdy undercarriage, obviously, if you're going to take students flying. That's going to help out. Trailing link undercarriage, weirdly, so I would imagine it helps out with a nice flare and landing. But I have to say, I think that I read somewhere that I think there was going to be due to be a carrier capability with these aircraft, hence the overly sturdy undercarriage. I mean, the state of this undercarriage is just massive given the size of the aircraft. Look at this. Look at that. That is a massively over-engineered piece of undercarriage. Massively so. Lovely 3D modelling, obviously around the undercarriage with the hydraulic lines, etc., as to be expected. Oleo's lovely PBR texturing as well. If you're looking at the mottled effect of the leg compared to the sort of gold shiny effect of the metallic extension of the oleo. Tyres are 3D models as well, as opposed to just a 2D texture over the top. Very nice. Coming around, you can see inside where the air brakes are. Very nice indeed. Exceptional piece of modelling in there. In fact, what we'll do quickly is we'll just pop here, and Have we got everything on? I mean, we can have the sun covers on, but they don't really do a great deal. Just wondering if we can... There we go. Force point ahead, GTN, blah blah blah. This is it. This is what I'm on about. This bit here. Right, let's pop back out. And you'll see now we've got all the hatches closed, open. So we've got the gun in here, which is just superb. That's the undercarriage bay doors open now. So obviously they close during ground operations, but you can open them from the EFB. Lovely texturing, really nice texturing and modelling inside here. And then if I scoot slightly to the right, you've got the actual gun. Obviously, being Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you buy it through the store, they don't operate. I don't know if the edition's bought through the the other two stores, Sim Market and Contrail, whether they allow you to fire the guns. Look at the rust on that. That's fantastic for and the detail on the intake covers. The attention to detail is just fantastic. 3D modelling is gorgeous. These are, I believe, the exhaust for the gun ports here. Very, very nice. Gun, very nice texturing, very nice 3D modelling of the ports for the gun doors. Likewise, back into the other undercarriage door. Just superb. Really, really nice modelling. They obviously had an opportunity to get really close to the real thing. The attention to detail. You can see from this side now we've got a completely different appearance of textures due to the lighting. Very detailed hub. Nice to see the creep marks. Very rusty chocks. Very nicely done. The whole thing is just very nicely done. Behind the air brakes. Now the thing's got air brakes and spoilers. The air brakes are what they say, but the spoilers are not for brakes, they're for roll control. A couple of strakes on the back. And then I don't know what they've modelled, whether it's the 102s or the 104s. I would imagine it's the 102s because the French had that as well. But inside the engine looks absolutely peachy. Decent sized tailhook. Doesn't look carrier sized, but there we go. And then obviously you've got the tailplane as well. It does have an APU, but it can only run for 10 minutes. So basically it's just for starting the aircraft, that's it. Now these are not ailerons. It uses differential tailerons, so these things here move differently. So they'll either both move up, both move down, or differing degrees will go one up, one down, etc. To control roll. In addition, on the top of the wings, don't know if you can see it from this picture, but I'll try and point it out later, you've got spoilers that open up, and that destroys the lift on one wing. It therefore drops, induces a roll. But these are flaps. Now, it's a very short, stocky wing, so hence you've got chunky flaps across the back. Now, a short, stocky wing, in theory, makes the ride at low level slightly better. It's got a higher wing loading than, say, a glider with a very low wing loading. But in theory, that would make the low level ride better. Having said that, unless you've been in one of these things, it's very difficult to know whether that works or not. But the modelling and the 3D modelling on things like the flaps is just stunning. Really stunning. Okay, so there is a bad. And I'm just going to keep admiring the 3D modelling. It's so well done. There is a bad. There's always something that comes up when you look at these things. And for me, let me get to a place where I can point it out. This is it. Texturing. Texturing sometimes loses it on the fuselage. And you can see what I mean with the lines here. They're not particularly great or defined along the bottom here. So if I just stick the... I mean, the markings are great. A little bit wibbly wobbly here for the ejection seat, but that's not, at this range it's not a massive problem. But when I look at this texture, it's not quite what I would have hoped for. Having said that, this is a £30 aircraft and we're looking at it from literally 6 inches away. The only people who would ever look at it from this close would be pilots and engineers. The public, i.e. me, would always look at it from this range. It's also nice to see a dirty aircraft. This is obviously a Desert Storm aircraft, given the livery, but just very, very nice. Very, very nice. So the external 3D modelling is just a peach, it has to be said. Right, internals. Let's just get rid of this for the moment. Lovely switch down here, EFB toggle. Lovely. Right. This is a trip back into the late 70s, early 80s by anyone's imagination. This is just a fantastic environment to look around. Now, obviously compared to an airliner, there's a lot less behind us. However, the cockpits tend to be, of this vintage, really, really complex. There's not a lot to help you out here. So, let's have a look at the modelling. Look at panels like this. This is just fantastic. The depth perception that you get. I'd love to see this thing in VR, actually. I think VR would look absolutely amazing in this. But you've got your throttles with attendant noises. Now I have an issue, so I'm going to start moving my throttles from the very back to the very front, and you see, so this is the back, you see when they start to move. So starting now, I don't think this is a me thing, because it seems to work fine in every other aircraft, but here we go. Starting now. Still going, still going, still going, still going, still going, starts to move. That's about half my throttle movement for my physical throttles before it even starts moving. Now that means when you're trying to come into land and you're modulating the throttles, it's very difficult because you haven't got a point to say, actually that's the idle point. You can still use them obviously because they still work, but I find it frustrating because I cannot. I've gone through the setup. I've gone through online to see if anybody else has had the same issues. Nobody's had the same issue. It detracts, but it's not a game changer for me. I must admit, I'm fairly tolerant of most things. It's just irritating more than a game changer. But the sounds are very good as well, as you can tell. And I'm not quite sure how we get it back into the fuel cutoff. But that's another day, I guess. But here we go. Here we've got a transponder, slightly different to a civilian one because it's got different modes. You'll find it's got mode 1, 2, 3A, 3 Charlie and 4. 3A and 3 Charlie are civilian ones, which has got you 7,000 up here. 1, 2 and 4 are military, to the best of my knowledge. You've got a crash bar down here that if you need to turn all the electrics off quickly you can do so, like that. So you've got battery alternator 1, alternator 2 and extinguishers. But we'll turn all of those back on. Integrated lights are down here. There's 2 different dials. Altitude alarms there. Roll and yaw trims are here. Formation lights, should you wish them. I will highlight that people turn the formation lights on in Simland all the time. Formation lights are low intensity lights designed for formation flying, as the name would suggest, and therefore if it's bright daylight you don't need them. Just because they're there, we don't necessarily need to turn them all on. This takes a little bit of awareness in terms of what you're doing with this, but it is really very nice. Your flaps, we're down at 40. Normally the takeoff apparently is 20, but you've obviously got 0, 5, 10, 20 and 40. 40 is quite a big flap setting to be all told. Don't know what that does, but it's scary because it's yellow and black like a wasp. You've got modulated throttle, modulated afterburners on this thing. So basically you can have afterburner settings, for want of a better way of putting it. Let me see what else we've got here down here. We've got some of the volumes for the radios, got some of the radar volumes here. We've got our nav and TACAN. So VRR ILS on the right, TACAN on the left. and then you've got your mode selection for lights up here, so normal, fixed, off, nav lights, flash, formation lights. Don't know, the formation lights don't work. Neither do the nav lights, weirdly. That's a very weird one. What we've got here. What was that? Anti-flash? Let's just move that out of the way. It'd be very, very remiss, but anti-flash, normal, on, dim. But most of the switches here work. So I think these are your channels for your stabilizers. Very, very nice indeed. And as you can see, the 3D modelling and rendering of the panel is just next level. The depth of field that you get in this thing is just glorious. Everything is, you know, gone are the days are of, you know, flat panels in terms of modelling. This thing is exquisite in terms of the panel modelling. Got absolutely no qualms. It's got plenty of texture, so down the sides of various panels it looks a bit bashed. Different textures on different panels here, there and everywhere. Here you see we've got the GPS in here now, so the GNS 430, not the 530. I believe these are related to weapons. I'm not quite sure, because obviously the weapons don't really work in the sim. The non-Microsoft Store versions may well drop weapons. I do not know, I'm afraid. This is your fuel tank panel up here. There's a lot going on here, to be honest. A lot going on here. Obviously, common instruments that you get, but obviously the weird sorts of things you get with the military aircraft that you don't get with the civilian aircraft is things like the instruments being offset. Quite commonly with a civilian aircraft you'd have a 6-pack focused around your attitude indicator. So you'd have the attitude indicator and then you'd just 6-pack around here. Whereas in military aircraft things kind of get shotgun located. Just fire in and see what goes where. Obviously engine instruments on the right. Carrot salad. Continuing round, we've got your electrics here. Canopy handle here for securing the canopy. These are your air. What we've got down here, more weapon switches, things like time on target, etc. And then what we've got here, air conditioning, fuel transfer pumps, etc. And I believe the circuit breakers are functional, which is cool. I love functional circuit breakers. So yeah, as I say, this is a French cockpit. The reason that I know it's different is because back in the day, my father, who was an RAF engineer, gave me a large circular lens. And I thought, what the hell is this? It turns out it was the glass lens off the moving map of an RAF GR1 Jaguar. So the RAF have a big moving map here instead of these instruments. Now, quite what they do with the rest of the instruments, I don't know. But as I say, they have a big moving map here, which they use for part of their navigation equipment. And as I say, I don't believe the French had that at all. So that's one of the changes, one of the differences that's obvious to see. There will be others, but without side-by-side comparison of photographs, you wouldn't know. But as I say, texturing is really nice. 3D modelling is just glorious. Even the edge of the glass look from the HUD looks true to life. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of modelling. Actually, if we come around towards the back, obviously look at the excellence of the texturing. A little bit of straight lining here. It's the first I've seen in the entire aircraft, if I'm honest. A little bit there as well around the seat. But if we can just get through the seat, this area here, just exquisite look. Absolutely exquisite. More circuit breakers down here. So nicely done with the individual wires going into the plugs. Ejector seat. It's just glorious. Absolutely glorious. So as you can tell, I'm pretty besotted with this. Let's have a couple of another clicks. So the first click here gets rid of the stick, which is nice. Get the EFB back. Complaint 2 is when the EFB is in situ, I've got no idea if this can be moved anywhere. but when it's in situ, if you were flying along, it blocks all your flight instruments, which is a real pain. However, what it does have, which is nice, is it has an autopilot. So you can set up, it's a very basic one, but you can set up an autopilot, which is really useful if you're doing long flights. So, EFB, we can get rid of these, wheel chocks, covers, GPU, we'll just connect that. Probably need the wheel chocks on actually. And we get some electrics powered up, get rid of that, and then we'll just have a continued look. So the display, you can hide or have the yoke, pilot interior view if you want it, force a pilot ahead, then you've got your nav gadgets, your GPS, you can either have it on the side or the front. I tend to have it on the side down here, which is, I suspect, more accurate. I suspect this would normally be some sort of weapons panel, but I don't know. You can have your different types of helmets. As I say, they're both French. I do not know the difference between the two. Please don't ask me. Heat intensity blur. Obviously, you can change your TACAN mode here and your nav mode, VLOC or GPS, which is great. Fuel tanks. Look at the complexity of this bad boy. How many fuel tanks do you want? And as you can see at the moment, it's draining from the wing tanks into the centre tanks on both sides, I think. Yeah. V2 and V1. Although I noticed that we've got 1, 2, 3 for fuselage, and then V1, 2 for the wings here. So it's all going to balance itself out eventually. I assume it's just gravity feeding various different tanks. But what we might do is fuel totalizer. How do we increase fuel? Oh, it's going to be through this, isn't it? Where's our weight and balance? So fuselage. Let's just fill the fuselage tanks. Fuselage. 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 I don't know if this is anywhere near correct. So there we go. Full fuselage tanks. And get rid of the alarm. So that'll give us fuel to go on for a week, so I would have thought. You can load weapons, so let's stick... Can we stick some pylons on? Drop tank in the middle. Let's just jump out, see what that looks like. Let's get ourselves a little bit away from that. Very effective noise. GPUs are not quiet. Yeah, it looks a business. We'll give ourselves a little bit of opportunity to get off the ground. We'll get rid of all of these. You can see the aircraft moving around as I adjust the weapon loads. So you've got 1,000-pounders, 755s, which are cluster munitions, pretty much not used these days due to the humanitarian impact of cluster munitions. So most Western countries don't use them. Certainly the UK doesn't, that I'm aware of. So yeah, that's kind of cool. As I say, you've got a moving map, autopilot, and then a little bit of information about the current version. Please download the manual, blah blah blah. All very good. So let's get us started. The aim of this isn't going to be as a tutorial. It's just going to get us airborne, listen to some of the sounds, etc. So we'll just have a quick look at the EFB, make sure it's what we expect it to be. The fuel sorting itself out. That's all what we expect to see. The aircraft's got all its stuff off, which is great. I have loaded on a couple of bombs so that it can look well-hard. That's where we are. Autopilot, not going to use back to the aircraft, and get rid of that. So, as I say, if I miss anything, well, never mind, it's in a sim, so we're not going to kill ourselves. But what I'll do is I'll get some essentials going, and then we'll do like a left to right scan to get rid of everything, and then we might just check it with the checklist. So first of all, we need some power. So coming down here, just zooming a bit, this is your master battery, that goes on like that, and then you cancel that. In fact, we will use the checklist, why not? We will use the checklist. Pre-flight inspection cockpit. Covers are removed, chocks are removed, control locks are fine, which is normally seen as a red flag here before start. Master batteries on. Pressurization is off, which is these two handles here. Not clearly visible at the moment. Air conditioning is also off at voltmeters above 23. Alarms we're not going to test. Totalizer set. The totalizer is this thing here. You have to manually set it. It doesn't measure how much fuel is in the tank. So you tell it how much fuel you've got, and then it takes the fuel usage from the engines as you're flying, and it will then adjust that. But it's to start with, it's dumb. It has no idea how much fuel you're starting with. All it does is measure fuel burn from a point you give it. So that's fine. Fuel gauge is fine. Fuel quantity we're fine. Flaps, geared panels, fine with testing those. Differential deflection, fine on auto. Beacon lights are going to both. The lights down, by the way, are down here. So the anti-collision, we'll pop the lights on anyway. Anti-flash. This is nav lights here, so it's kind of a click and drag for that one. And then this is your formation lights. We're not going to put formation lights on because we're in daylight. If it was poor lighting or night, you would put them on because they're low intensity lights designed, as the name says, for formation flying, not for general flying. If you can see them, you don't need formation lights really, but there we go. Hydroelectric pump is this one. We're not going to put that one on yet because it's all about testing the spoilers, which I'm not bothered about. Hydro pump off is fine. Low pressure LP valves, the low pressure valves, sorry, are where have we gone? LP, oh, they're down here. So the low pressure valves are both on. Tick tick. Fuel transfer pumps on. There we go. APU switch goes to on. Then we press start. Hold it a couple of seconds, you'll hear it whine and start up, and the sound is just fantastic. Give it a chance to sort its life out. Fine. APU bleed start. That can go on now. Throttle right to idle. Both my throttles are idle, so that's not a problem. And then we're going to start the engine. So going to the right first, and it will start completely as I haven't got any detent from my throttles yet. I don't know how I've managed to achieve that, but never mind. But this will start immediately. That noise with the grumbling in the background is just wonderful. So that's up. What we do is click that, and then we start the other engine. Oh, I've got Flight Sim barking at me now for some random reason. Just watching it come up. Stabilise at 55, make sure the EGT doesn't over 10, which is looking very low. I was expected to go up and then come down, but never mind, eh? And at this point now, this can go off, this can go off, and oh yeah, that one can go on. So done. Rectifier left and right both on. Starter left, throttle left. Done. APU bleed done. So taxi. Canopy. Unfortunately, we've got to get rid of that beautiful noise now. Where's it gone? There it is. And when you do your canopy, you have to come down here and close that handle, and it will show you canopy is fine down here. We've got one amber light down here, which is for the pitot. The pitot is here, so that will go out. Okay, so the canopy's closed, canopy's locked, pressurization is on. Pressurization, these two levers down here, so that one goes on there. I don't know what she's on about. I'm not requesting any ground services at all. Check my EFB. I haven't requested anything, have I? Off, disconnected. No, that's a sim thing. I don't know what's going on with Microsoft Flight Simulator for that. So on a secondary horizon indicator on, so you can see it here. It's all the way over the place. Is it one of these switches down here? I think. Is it that one there? Yes. I don't want ground services. F3, F4 pumps are fine. We will, however, put that on. So slats are to auto, which is absolutely fine. Electronic hydro pump, which is what we've just turned on there, is going to there. VOR, ILS, TACAN, IFF, spoilers, park brake, taxi lights, etc. So we'll just come down here. Your radios are all down here. So it wants us to put that to receive, that one on, and then we're going to put some lights on, just so we look pretty, really. Have I already done the lights? Maybe I have. Brakes tested. So that's our taxi. Now we've got our before takeoff. So what we'll do now, we might as well do some of them whilst we're here. So flaps. Now I've been having an issue with my flaps, Mrs. FNAR, in that it doesn't seem to do a step at a time. But we want 20 degrees flaps to take off. We'll stick a couple of these lights on. We'll stick the taxi light on because we're going to taxi. FNAR. Stick a bit of the integrated lights on in case we come across some low visibility. Turn the transponder on, so it's the not 3 Alpha, 3 Charlie we want. And then here we go to normal. In fact, I would assume up is on. It normally is in a military aircraft. Why won't it let me click that one now with this angle? Oh, I don't know. But we'll work our way around as we go. So I'm happy with all of these, happy with all of these, happy with all of these, happy with all of that. These are your radio volume knobs, happy with that. We've turned these two on. Well, I think I just accidentally turned that too far. This needs to go to PAL plus G, which is guard. But that's your frequency, we're not going to use that. Let me just see, right. Flaps are set, pitot heat is down here as well, which is on. IFF we've sorted, trim is set, 0 is what we'd normally use, or what I normally use, and your trim indication is here. Air conditioning, I'm going to leave it on. Taxi and takeoff light, normal takeoff. Minimise that, and away we go. I am going to turn the gun sight on, or the HUD I should say, which is here, and we'll have a quick look, make sure there's nothing untoward. We've got nothing on here, everything looks okay, and if I've missed anything, we're not going to die, which is the main thing. Okay, let me just sort out something. And then we'll get airborne. Right, that's fine. Just do a control check before we move. Left, right, forwards, backwards, left rudder, right rudder. And the throttles were there, weird movement. I'll get rid of this. And round we come. And very positive steering from the outset. And turning right, increasing, ball out to the left, ball to the left, and decreasing, ball goes right, showing a left-hand turn as well. And nav instruments recording, all moving as expected. And then I would highlight that the ground handling is particularly good. It's very nice, it's positive. My throttle, however, is doing my head in. I need to, I might contact them actually, because it's unusual that I get no response from my throttle for the first 50% of the movement, and then it will suddenly start behaving. And the bit beyond that is linear. It's absolutely fine. It's just that I just have this weird situation. But, you know, never mind. Right, the spoilers are stowed properly. So I use, from when I was flying my commercial exams, a very rudimentary 5-step checklist, which is frozen ATPL. So that's flaps at 20, altimeter not setting, transponder I'm not bothering with today. P is pitot heat, which is on, and L lights. We'll put them onto landing lights when we get there. That's pretty much all I'm going to worry about at the minute. Apart from maybe I should stay on the yellow line. That would be nice, wouldn't it? We could maybe play around with it a little then. And then what we'll do is we'll take off, we'll look for 150, 160 as a rotate speed, something like that. As I say, I'm not going to fly it exactly according to the book. No disrespect to the developers, but when you're flying lots of aircraft, it's easy to forget the numbers. So I tend to try and fly it by feel. If they will be spot on, their numbers for how it rotates, etc., will be absolutely spot on. I have no doubt of that. It's just my poor little brain can't necessarily remember lots of numbers. So we'll see how we get on. And if I mess it up, it's all on me, isn't it? As I say, ground handling's lovely, sounds are lovely, taxiing, just the whole thing's a lovely, lovely experience at the moment. Things can change, because I've had a few goes flying this thing, and it throws a few challenges at you occasionally. The biggest one is if you're not paying attention to your speed on approach. You can get into a situation where you feel like you're flying, and realistically you're just sinking, you're just losing altitude. The aircraft's not doing anything toward it, it's just dropping like a stone because you haven't paid any attention. Quick look down there. No, down there, no. Burners going in. $90, $20, $150. Try and ease her off with that. Bit of a wriggle. We are off. Mishandled by my good self. Because my gear was late coming up, I just sort of listened for the noises to see what it was like, and it's great. Okay, so we're 300 knots, we've got a little bit of speed to play with. We are max power. As we bring around to the left, we're climbing quite nicely. Keep bringing around. There we go. And we'll do what she's designed to do, we'll go down low level. Lost enough out to our left now. She's absolutely gorgeous. I suppose we ought to do some checklists really. the left hand whilst doing stuff with my right on the mouse. But there we go. Flight controls, throttles, en route to climb, landing gears, up, 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 and on. Get rid of that. As you see, they're pretty simplified checks. I'm sure the real thing's got more checks than that to go through the checklist, but there we go. Right, handling, very positive, very stable, but she is very much able to roll around and move. Now we'll come over here. We're just coming over Kinloss Air Base here, which is on our way towards the estuary that we're going to play around in. And what we're up to now, we're up to nearly 500 knots. Let's bring it back a little bit to rein in the fuel consumption. And speeds in the military are generally done in 60s. So you tend to find the aircraft will fly at 120, 180, 360, 420, for example. And that's because it's easily divisible by 60 for the mental arithmetic, which is nice. She's very stable to fly. Look at that viewpoint. It's where I find I'm flying her into the ground. Getting a bit stuttering in the sim. Not entirely sure why. I've been getting it on a few add-ons recently and a few things, so do need to look into that. Although I'm probably due an upgrade to the processor. It's one of those things that every now and again you have to keep rebuilding stuff, don't you? So yeah, it's a 13th gen i7 3700 or something like that, or 13700. Not entirely sure, but obviously we're 14th gen now, and yeah, it's just one of those things. It's the constant journey, isn't it, of trying to keep a sim running for a computer capable of running a sim. This is just fantastic fun. This is. I'm just going to go around to the left a little bit. I mean, this is the element, this is the domain for the Jag, is low level. Again, a little bit stuttery there. Not quite sure why. This is hands off at the minute, so it's not going to do anything too brutal for me. We'll come down here, come down the estuary, and then we'll go down the valley. Yeah, really, really nice to hand fly. There are 3 modes for the HUD. I don't really know the difference between the modes, but the controls are here. So I think that's the bombing one, and that's the air-to-air one with the Pipper reticule, and then the middle one is just sort of the navigation one, I think. It's not a particularly complex thing. It does exactly what it says on the tin though. Right, got the valley coming down here. You've probably gone to somewhere like Innsbruck for this, but I just wanted to fly from somewhere in the UK that's a military base. But what we'll do in a moment is we'll pull up, we'll have a look at some of the handling. And it does have some traits in terms of low speed handling where, as I say, it'll catch you out if you're coming to land and you're landing too slow. This is such a lovely thing to fly. The thing is, of course, it's powered flying controls, so the feedback is basically created by the system. I think commonly called the Q-field system is one of the things, one of the tools. But of course, unlike say a Cessna, you've got no actual direct feedback in a lot of aircraft that have hydraulics. You have no idea what the kickback pressure of the control surfaces is, so you have a tendency to just end up with something in a computer that we don't really know how hard the pull is, and we don't really know what the feel is in terms of what it's like as a real aircraft pilot flying the Jaguar. Unless you have a complete replica with all of the forces calculated and worked out, force feedback stick, and a Jaguar, ex-Jaguar pilot to adjust it, tweak it, set it up for you, then I would suggest we're never going to get the true feeling of what it's like to fly a Jaguar with all the incumbent hydraulic systems, etc. Right, let's just plug the burners in. And then finally we're just going to pull up. Get her over the top. And have some fun. Because this is what fun is all about. So, as I say, generally very stable. I can move the controls and it just kind of sits there. I have no idea what the handling characteristics of a Jaguar are, whether it would sit there, whether it would tip in, tip out. So I just have to take it on what it is as an aircraft to fly it in the sim, which at the moment is very stuttery. Oh my word, what's going on there? Oh well. So what we'll do is, at this point, we'll just do some... come on, sim. There we go, that's a bit better. We'll just do some... oof, this is not good. Right. Lovely sounds as you pull into it. Horrible stutter on my machine. How awful is that? Okay, so Inverness Airport is off to the right. What we're going to do is just bring her up, lose a bit of speed, and we'll look for Inverness, and we'll take her in there. Whether or not you can fit a Jag in Inverness, I don't know, but we're just about to find out. Speed's coming back below about 300 to 250. Reintroduce a bit of power just so we can keep ourselves airborne. And we'll start to look for the airfield. We'll take a couple of stages of flaps. And I always think that handling is best figured out in a landing. So I'm going to look at approaching about 160, I think. And the airfield is somewhere out to our left. Let's see if I can use Microsoft Supervision. It's out here somewhere, is it? Right, just need to watch the speed. Below 200, so gear can come out. Which is really nice to fly. I'm going to try something actually. One of the, as I say, the Jag that was at Boscombe once had to come in, single engine, had to use afterburner to stay on the glide slope, just blipping it on and off. So we'll see. I'm not visual the airfield really. Is that it? That looks like it's there. So we'll see how we get on with it. A bit bouncy on the trim. Now, I'm just mindful that with only one engine, recovering speed is going to be a real challenge. We're full power there on one engine. it lined up really, don't we? Yeah, she does not have a lot of excess thrust. Drifting. A bit squirrely, Anna came in too fast there. Get some brakes going. Are we going to stop? I think we are. Well, that was fun. I mean the engine being so, with the two engines so close together. You're not going to get massive, like, well, I don't know, you've got really powerful engines, but the yaw potential compared to engines that are further out in the wing is potentially reduced by that, which is a good thing. So there we go. Right, let's have a think about what we've got here. So we'll pop outside, pop the brake on. Do love the fact it bounces around, that's really nice. Okay, so outside modelling, overall very nice. The only things that I've really picked up on that I think let it down a bit are the texturing, where you get things like panel lines which are slightly blurred and slightly crooked look, like down here. The actual 3D modelling of things like probes, etc. Excellent. I love the engine intakes, by the way, these side covers. When you need to get more air in, it does exactly what it says on the tin. Animations for those. I love the fact that the undercarriage bounces and moves around, so you can see it on the nose wheel if I do this. Lovely animations, lovely sounds. So, you know, 3D modelling, superb. Sounds really, really nice. Animations, very nice. Things like the gear, very nice. Textures let it down a little bit, if I'm honest. Coming in the cockpit, 3D modelling, very, very nice. Not everything is clickable, although circuit breakers are, which is nice. You can have a GNS in here, which I'll be honest, I don't really use that much, but it is fun. Starting it, stopping it's pretty straightforward. A lot of aircraft of this area, the intent was to try and get them airborne in the Cold War as quick as they could. So there's a lot of stuff where it's pretty straightforward once you know where the indications are, the instruments, the switches, etc. The checklist I think is probably a bit abbreviated compared to the real world one, but it's very functional and it's very appropriate to what we're doing in the flight sim. 3D modelling and texturing in the cockpit is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely no qualms about that. If you look at the finesse here with this needle here, just really, really fine. Dirt, grain, great lighting, everything looks absolutely fab. It's really, really nice. And then flying characteristics. I've never flown a Jaguar. I will never fly a Jaguar. The only military fast jet flying I've got is in a Hawk, which probably is nothing like a Jaguar. So have to look at it from a sim perspective. And the thing that stands out for me in terms of the flying is it's very stable, it's very predictable. However, it's very nice, it is pretty agile. The power limitations are apparent, so when we did that approach on one engine, I was desperately keen not to let it go low and slow, because with one engine in an approach configuration I'm not sure that we would have recovered. And having heard an instance over the radio where a Jag came in, as I say, blipping its throttle into afterburner just to recover to the base, I can see that if you've got a heavy aircraft, that is definitely a thing. There's a few elements of me, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the throttles, but the fact they don't move until I've got half my throttle movement on my physical throttles may well be a me thing. But overall, I have to say that this is, for £30, this is a really, really good add-on. And if you're into military aircraft generally, then I think this is lovely. This is really, really nice add-on. So, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please don't forget to tick like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.